Well, when I was in an undergrad, 18 years old in college, I was taught the evolutionary theory, and that was the last time I had seen it. I finished my undergrad degree and went on, got my master's degree at the medical school in Duluth. I got my PhD through the Department of Medicine at the University of Minnesota Medical School, and went on to do research at the VA Medical Center, where I was doing government contract research, looking at new drugs, therapeutic drugs, and on, working with 3 different biotechnology companies, diagnosing illnesses. And in none of that time, in all those years, nobody mentioned evolution. It seemed to be irrelevant, and it had no place. It was a historical narratives, historical comments about how things might have started and developed. But gee, here we are today, and we have to solve today's problems. So nobody was interested in the word evolution, and I never had to address it for all those years. And then when I decided to get out of the companies and come to work for Northwestern College, which was another story of how I got called here, it was remarkable that the first time I opened up the undergraduate freshman biology book, that I had to address evolution again. Well, decades ago I had first seen it, and now I had to actually address it. Well, now having a master's degree and PhD in physiology and biochemistry, and knowing how molecules operate and what they can do and what they can't do, I was quite, I just marveled at what the claims were for biomolecules, about starting from nothing, how they self-assembled on this planet somehow. And we have no information that such a thing is possible. So I was angry, yes, that the textbooks, that the powers that be in science in this world, in this country, are pushing self-assembly when all of the data says nothing self-assembles. We don't have sheer dumb luck. It just doesn't happen. We can't see it happening. We can't make it happen. So I wondered, how am I supposed to teach this in any college, much less a Christian college, but in any college? How can I teach this with a straight face? This is laughable material. So I started on a journey, 17-year journey now, of trying to find the truth. I want to know what the data really is that would actually cause authors to write these sentences in the textbook, asserting natural process of putting everything together. It's as complex and as regulated as it is. How does that happen? And the deeper I dug and the deeper I dug, the more I found out that it's impossible. And these comments were against the data. Well, how do you teach that? Who's teaching against the data? Well, apparently a lot of people are teaching against the data. And that is, that's scientifically blasphemous. When I started at Northwestern teaching, I realized the uphill battle that it would be to find, number one, the real data that told the truth about what molecules could do and not do, what DNA, how DNA could or could not form on its own, how cells could or could not form on their own. So I realized as I read more and more that this was going to be quite an uphill battle. You're going to be bucking the system. You've got the National Academy of Sciences, all the way down to the local level, that are just pushing so hard to please just teach the textbook and don't make any waves and don't ask any questions. Oh, well, that's not science. So I knew I was embarking on something that would be even dangerous, at least professionally dangerous. And I never looked back. I just realized this is something that if I'm going to go after the truth, and that's what I want, then I will go against all odds or anybody. It doesn't make any difference. The truth has to come out. And so that's what happened. I started reading and finding that how many people would really want to do this and go against the establishment of science and just profess what they want you to profess. And if you don't profess that, you will be blackballed. You will be attacked professionally. And I thought about that, and I realized there aren't many people in this state that will go against that system. And how many in the country would do that? And who and why? And why not? Well, it's out of fear. Well, if that's what you fear your profession, you fear your career, then you're a slave. And I will not be a slave. So I realized there was a time in my life here where I was no longer going to be working for companies. I was no longer going to have chasing the money tree, chasing the promotional tree. But in fact, this was a new calling, and it was a calling of honesty and scientific honesty. In 2005, I was made aware of a project that was going on in Kansas. The Kansas State Board of Education was questioning the validity of the statements in the textbooks. And I was amazed that this was at the State Board of Education level. I was very intrigued that other people were questioning these assertions of nature being all-powerful. And I managed to find out who was in charge of that project, and I called that man and asked him about the project. He explained it to me, and I explained to him my background, and we had a 2-hour conversation. And he determined that I might have something to add to the case. So I agreed, and he did make me aware that if you go national with something like this, you will pay a price professionally for this. You will be blackballed. You will be, your name on the internet will have disparaging remarks. He said, that it comes with the territory. Are you willing to do that? And I said yes immediately. After I hung up, I had second thoughts. I thought, okay, what does that mean? Well, that limits where you might get a job and where you might not get a job if you were to look for a job. And I really never had a calling to move to another school anyway. And I thought, you know, if God wants me to do this, it's going to be very clear and peaceful on my heart. And if I'm blackballed, God will have another position for me if He wants me to be somewhere else. What do I have to fear? Nothing. So I went in eyes wide open and determined. So I did my homework. I spent days and nights preparing for this presentation in front of the State Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas. There were 23 of us total who testified about the inability of natural process to start life on this planet. It was that narrow of an area that they wanted us to testify on. It was no testimony with regard to religion, no testimony about creation, nothing about intelligent design. It was simply, what does the data say about natural process being able to start life on this planet? And all of the data refutes any such claim of self-starting with natural process. So it was quite a nice experience. I flew down there and I testified. You had 45 minutes to make your testimony, and then the state board quizzed you and asked their questions for another 15 minutes. And all the while, there were approximately 15 to 20 movie cameras rolling during all these testimonies. One of them was NBC, one of them was CBS. So you start to realize that if you say anything wrong, if you make any mistakes, it's recorded. So I had to be very careful. The State Board of Education took all of that testimony. They asked for the atheistic evolutionary scientists to come forward and give testimony. They gave them 2 weeks to come through and test and bring as many people as they wanted to testify against the data that we presented. And they decided to boycott the entire proceedings. They could bring no evidence forward that would have supported natural process of origins. They couldn't find anything, so they didn't bring forth anything. So what they did was they contacted the media and said, this group wants to teach religion in the schools. And that's what they asserted, and they decided not to testify any scientific information, but just smear and smear and smear. So that's how you know when the adversary is against the ropes, when they go for a smear campaign, just like any other politics.